Now, let me cover one other aspect of the wave principle that I think is very valuable, and that is what it does for you when you are wrong, when you make a mistake. Let's assume, for instance, that you were watching this daily chart and trying to pinpoint the low of the final fifth wave, and you recognized wave 1 and wave 2, and then this very severe decline got underway, and you said, oh man, that's sharp enough for a wave 3, and here's a bounce. There's no overlap. I'll put my 3 right here and my 4 here. So when the market makes a new low and then reverses, you buy it, saying we've had a 3, 4, 5 into a bottom. Where do you place your stop? One tick under that low. Because you see, if a pattern is over, it's over. There's no fooling around. You're either right or you're wrong. You either caught the low or you didn't. If you didn't, you may have only missed it by a small amount. On the other hand, you may be wrong by a mile. Why take the risk? If that low is taken out, get out of the position. How much have you risked? A few percent and maybe the commission. You've got your low here after the bounce. Market comes back down and takes you out, bounces again, and you're going home saying to yourself, well, I'm pretty miserable. I thought I was catching a low here and it took me out. But how miserable are you compared to the guy that tried to catch a low about 3 months ago? And he's still long. So you sleep on it for a couple days and you say, well, wait a minute now. I remember when Bob was giving that presentation, he said that wave 3 very often subdivides into a 5-wave sequence. Maybe I should put my 3 here. My 4th wave peaks here just slightly above the area of this previous 4th. And here we have a 5th wave down. There's a little gap in here too. And another reversal. That's a pretty big reversal day. I'm going to buy it, put my stop there. Well, you have now caught the exact bottom at very minimal risk. The other beauty of this entry, this kind of entry, is that you can now let your position run a long way, understanding that your ultimate risk in the position is almost zero. Now, I've been stopped out plenty of times in my life and in the Elliott Wave Theorist, but almost never with a major loss. We have rarely been caught invested for a long period of time on the wrong side of a market. And it's strictly because the wave principle, if properly applied, if objectively applied, does not allow you to do it. Now, that's not to say that sometimes we make mistakes and we say, well, look, I'm going to let this one go because I'm so sure that we're almost ready to come into a high or a low. I mean, I've made mistakes like that myself. Those are human errors, though. They're not errors that the wave principle dictates or even suggests you should be making. Well, here's the outcome, just to orient you to it. That was the exact low, at least for quite a period of time. And cocoa then soared from 1,300 to 2,800. And just so you realize that this just never stops, I'd like to show what happened some time thereafter. This was the low we caught right there, the 5th of C. Cocoa had a powerful advance from there. And without going through all the Elliott wave ramifications of this, I want you to understand how psychology was working. What kind of psychology do you think was present at that low in December of 1982? The bleakest imaginable. The quotes in the financial press on cocoa, when you could find them, it's not exactly the most popular thing to follow, were negative. They were bearish. They were all giving arguments as to why cocoa would go much lower. That is normal. This is what you should expect. This is what is required for a bottom to be made. Of course, the psychology had changed by this time. Now let's read what some analysts were saying when cocoa was at 2,700 and moving vertically. You see this advance here? That's just soaring straight up. So it's almost as if it's a gimme to make comments about how high it's going. It's holding up like a Picasso, one guy says. The next stop is 3,000. This person is looking for a rally over the next few weeks of 2,800. It's in a blazing bull market, says another one. prices to rise, not necessarily in a straight line, but certainly much higher. Here's someone else looking for 3,000. Here's someone else looking for 2,800 to 3,000. Now, it's not really too tough when it's been going up, $100 a week and is currently at 2,700 to say it's going to go to 3,000. I mean, that's kind of just normal extrapolation. But you know what? Never made it. Peaked at 2,800 on a spike, right with the most ebullient psychology, and turned down from there. One of the most interesting comments about cocoa during this rise was how mysterious it was that it was going up, because everyone knew there were many, many stockpiles of cocoa being held. And they couldn't understand why the price was going up. The reason is it had already gone too far on the downside and it was time for psychology to change. And this goes on and on. They're bearish at the bottom, bullish at the top, bearish at the bottom. It goes on forever. If you've missed a move in a market recently, don't worry about it. There's another one coming up, and it'll have the same characteristics, the same wave shape, the same psychology, the same kind of news that's trying to throw you off the track. And once you get used to all that, it starts to be like a replay. And you're starting to watch the same thing over and over. And after a few years, something may happen to you, which has happened to me. I don't look at the name of the chart anymore. I don't care what it is. I've seen this happen before. I look for 5s and 3s, and I look for the rules to be satisfied, the guidelines to be satisfied. I don't even know sometimes when somebody puts a chart in front of my nose whether I'm looking at a 5-minute bar or a weekly bar. You interpret it the same way. And once you get used to that and start ignoring what's irrelevant, it will not only make you a better trader, but it will keep you from getting tripped up as much by listening to all the news. Now, news has some value, but it's exactly the opposite of the way most people think it has value. And that is, let's suppose you've decided that a new bull market has started in the market you're watching. And all of a sudden, a piece of very bad news comes out, and the market, probably because it was at the end of a wave 1 or a 3 or a 5, on the way up, moves sharply lower. Most people are looking at that news and saying, oh my gosh, terrible news, I better get out before I get hurt. What's your answer to that news? Buy. You look at the wave structure, decide where the low should occur, and you buy it. You use that news to your advantage, not your disadvantage. And that's what having a perspective, an overall perspective on the market can do for you. With these rules and guidelines and wave counting exercises that we've done today, you could quit right now and you would know more about the wave principle than 90% of the people who are putting letters and numbers on charts for publication today. As long as you stuck to those rules and guidelines, you would know more than they know and you would do better than they do. And I'm convinced that you would be able to assess markets better than 80 or 90% of the professional market analysts out there today also. However, there's still a lot more of value behind the wave principle. There's a lot more to learn, and that's what the rest of today and tomorrow are going to be dedicated to. So stick around. Thank you.